Therefore the ungodly shall not stand in the judgment, nor sinners in the congregation of the righteous. For the Lord knows the way of the righteous, but the way of the ungodly shall perish. There's 150 chapters in Psalms, and there's countless verses in Psalms. And Psalms 1 gives us the permission to succeed. 150 chapters in Psalms, and Psalms chapter 1 gives you the permission to succeed. In verse 3 he said, and you shall be like a tree, not out in a desert, not planted to dry up, but you're going to be like a tree that's planted by the rivers of waters. And that your fruit you will be fruitful in its season. Your leaves will never dry up. And whatever you do will prosper. So 150 chapters, and in the very first chapter, God is giving you, yes, a nobody, yes, you, well, I ain't got no money in my bank, you, I ain't got a job, you, I got a faulty marriage, you, I got kids that are driving me nuts, you, that has a broken down car, you, that needs to pay rent. God's given you permission to succeed. Okay, now listen, I'm naturally going to get hyper. I try to contain it, but I need you, let's get some amens going. God's given you the permission. You can listen, but WellsFargo.com, my banking account statement doesn't give me permission to succeed. But God has given you permission to succeed. My family has never succeeded. I live in a family that we've always lived in poverty. The church that we've always gone to has always been struggling. But God has given you permission to succeed. Here we go. Sometimes the biggest choice that you have got to make is to give yourself the permission to succeed. Because oftentimes no one around you will, because we live in a world full of haters. There we go. I knew that would get an amen. I knew it would. We live in a world full of haters, people that don't want to elevate themselves, but they get the sense of elevation when you fall. So they ain't climbing up, but what's happening is you're slipping and dipping, and all of a sudden they feel like they're ahead of you. You ain't no better than me. I'm just right now underneath you, so you feel like you are better than me. You get the sense of satisfaction, and you delight when I mess up. You're a hater. I never understood why people persecute the people that work hard and make good decisions and make sacrifices and rise to the top in blessings. Those are the people that we want to talk about. Those are the people that we want to fault. Those are the people that we want to hate on. But that's the culture that we live in today. We live in a culture that doesn't want to take time to build the thing, nor do they want to sacrifice anything to build it. But once it's built, they demand a place at the top of the thing that you built. I feel like I could be the top of this church. Why? Because I was a part of building this church since birth. Because I've cleaned the walls, and I've plunged the toilets, and I shoveled the sidewalks, and I put in the work to do it. I don't demand a position at the top, but I can have a position at the top because I know what it took to build it in the first place. The reason why they don't give people a top position, the people that weren't a part of the building it, because it's the building of the organization that trains you and teaches you on how to sustain it. If you weren't the one who built it, then you don't know what it took to build it in the first place, and you don't know what it's going to take for you to keep it running. It's important that we're talking about new structures. It's important that we are the ones building the new structures, because if we are the ones building the new structures, then we know what it takes to build the structures. Therefore, we know what it takes to sustain the structures. And when the tough gets going and when things get chaotic, we know how to keep the new structures intact because we built it in the first place. We want God to zap down new structures. Give me the new wine. If you give me the new wine skins and you give me the new wine, I won't lose it, I promise. If you give me the new structures and give me the restoration, I won't lose it, I promise. God said it doesn't work that way. You're going to get the new wineskins, I'll give you the new wine. Because it's the development of the new wineskins, it's the development of the restoration, it's the development that's going to help you maintain what I'm about to give you. When Ashley and I got married, we did not do that. We did not sit down and ask each other, what kind of wife are you going to be? What kind of husband am I going to be? What kind of husband do you want me to be? What kind of a wife do I want you to be? We actually built the structure of marriage based off of what our parents did. I responded to Ashley, and I began to husband my marriage. I began to father in my marriage the way my dad did. So I never built a marriage. I just mimicked what my parents did. But surprise, surprise, that wasn't the marriage that my wife wanted. Nothing wrong with my mom and dad, but what worked for them didn't work for us. And because our marriage was never properly built, our marriage was faulty, and we went through a divorce-ish. But then we get back together, we build a marriage, we built new structures. God brought us restoration, the building of new structures, and now we know what it takes to be married because we built marriage and we know how to sustain marriage. There is something that keeps us locked. I'm preaching, man. There's something that keeps us locked in poverty. There's something that keeps us locked in despair. And what you call it poverty, you call it despair, I call it commonplace. It's weird not to live in despair. It's weird not to live in debt. Dave Ramsey, if you're not a Dave Ramsey, we're going to teach Dave Ramsey here. It is my objective to be a good shepherd and to teach you, and you cannot be in debt. And I'm not going to teach you. I'll let Dave Ramsey rip you apart. He'll rip you apart. But Dave Ramsey calls it being weird. Common people have credit card debt. Common people have leases on cars. Common people have payments on cars. He said, don't be common, be weird. Be weird. There's something that keeps us locked in this commonplace. But John said there is a key to freedom, and it's the truth. The truth shall set you free. But the truth so violates people that you turn them off when they begin speaking truth to you because you feel like they're coming down on you. I have seen that more over the last couple of weeks. In my studying and in my training, I got a couple mentors who mentor me. We've been talking a lot, and I've been seeing it with my own eyes and hearing it with my own ears. That people hate the truth. And you know what the truth is? The truth is you cannot continue to live an average life. And people hate that. The truth is, it is time. Brent, it's good to have you in church today, man. The truth is, it's time for you to get restored. The truth is develop new containers. But nobody wants to hear that. It's so fascinating to me that you can get a pastor up here and talk about living triumphantly and living in victory and in restoration and new wineskins, and you can hear a pin drop. But then you can get that same pastor up here a week later and talk about if you're going through hell, just keep on going, and people are shouting him down. You know why? Because people love living in despair. People love them. My life is just so crummy. Look at me. Look at me. I'm blessed that I'm here. You know, it's been around really tough. You know, God will provide, and God will work for me, and God will help me make it through another. Brother, just be blessed. I'll just be praying for you. Thank you, brother. I needed that. People love the attention. I know there's a lady that's in my life, and I would say her name, but I don't want to. But I never knew this until a friend of mine told me about this. They said, this person loves chaos. It's like her drug. It's like the endorphins that are released in her life and inside of her body, and the feeling that she gets when there's chaos. She just loves to just like solve problems. She just loves it. Just look at what's going on. Can you imagine everything that's going on? I'm solving problems. She just eats it up. People just love living in despair. People just love chaos. But I'm telling you, we cannot be a culture, we can't be a church that shouts down a preacher talking about living a depressed life. We got to be a preacher that says, I'm not depressed anymore. I may be going through something, but I'm living victoriously. God is good. Yeah, my bank account is not as big as I want it to be, but God has never forsaken me. God is good. Yeah, I don't want to be a church that you shout me down and shandai all over the place when I'm talking about going through hell. I want you to celebrate when we give you an opportunity to give in the offering plate, because you know when you drop the tithe and when you drop the offering, all of a sudden heaven gets behind you, taking you places that you could not have gone before. That's the church that I want. Over the last 6 months since I've taken this transition, people resist that. They don't like my teaching. Why? Because I make them feel uncomfortable. Why? Because growing pains are always uncomfortable. I will not let you sit in this congregation and remain the same. Why? Because God revealed something to me, Sean, this week. He said, when the church is going to succeed, because it's going to succeed, when this church succeeds, the church gets the accolades. The church gets the credits. But if it was to plunder and if it was to fail, everybody looks at me. Everybody looks at me. I'm going to make the best decisions that I can for this congregation because I know when all the dust settles, I am the one at the forefront, and I'm the one that God says, Brad, you did it, do it right. I'm not going to let you sit here and just remain the same. By one of our Keurigs, we have 3 coffee pots burning in this church today. Amen. And donuts. Why not come to church? By this coffee pot out here, by this Keurig, is a ministry card. We want you to serve in this church. Thank you, Mike, for filling this out and bringing it back. We want to know where you can serve because we want you to serve. You know why we want you to serve? It's because we don't want you to remain the same. We got here to church this morning. I shoveled yesterday. We got here to church this morning. Before he even walked in the door, Sean said, Carson, when we get in there, grab a shovel and go shovel. Carson said, okay. I don't think he had a choice. We found the second shovel. We said, Cameron, get out there and shovel. I said, let me show you how to shovel. I've shoveled. Sean, your iPad's on. I kind of like it, but it's on. I said, listen, I've shoveled this porch many of times in my life. Let me show you the best way to do it. And what you're going to do is you're going to come along this edge to make a walking path for you. And matter of fact, you might want to do it twice, but get it twice. And that way you can stand. And what we're going to do is we're going to shift it all the way down to the edge of the deck. I've shoveled this deck. I know what it takes. And children, I'm not going to let you just come and sit and eat my donuts and not serve in this church. I was up here for worship, and Tater Tot was down here. And does anybody else call her that? Maybe it's just me. I don't know. I probably embarrassed her. She was down here, and she was just worshiping. I can't put my microphone down. Mark gets mad at me. And it was just, she was just worshiping, and how siblings fight. Something happened. Haley made her mad, whatever, and she was just. So Ashley is speaking a little bit, and I called Taylor in the back. She's probably thinking, uh-oh, now I'm about to get in trouble right by the boss. And I said, and I began to choke up and cry back there. I said, Taylor, you were worshiping so good. You were, and I'm worshiping so good. And then I said, your sister made you mad, huh? She said, yep. I said, that's how the devil works. I said, I'm not saying your sister is the devil, but that's how it works. I said, you get back out there and you worship that way again so I can watch you worship, and it can make me want to worship. We need to set up a camera here and watch this stuff. I refuse to let children come to this house and not be a part of this, and I refuse not to let you be a part of it. And I know you're going to kind of buck the system up, Brad. I don't want to, just fighting me like a little kid putting on pants, 3 years old, Cooper. So I got to pin him down to put on a sock. I don't want to put on a sock. No, you're going to put on a sock because that's what we do in the house of God. We all wear clothes. Thank God. I'm telling you, that would be a church that would get world recognition. I don't know if it'd be good or bad. These people are so real, they show up naked. So God wants to restore you. But the word restore means to create new structures. I had to help you out. I thought you were going to drop on that one. In other words, in order to get your life to a place where you weren't as vulnerable before, when the enemy took your stuff, you have to build new structures. Again, remember, God wants you to build new structures. It's building something that you didn't have before. It's taking you beyond what you had before, because God doesn't want to just bring you back to where you were, because where you were is where you were the first time when you lost it all. So when God restored our marriage, he said, Brad and Ashley, I'm not going to put you back to where you were, because where you were before, you were faulty. So what we're going to do is we're going to go beyond where you were, and that's the restoration. So we're talking about restoration. Everything that God has ever wanted to do in your life, everything that God has ever wanted to do in you, everything that God has ever wanted you to do, you've been walking around it this whole time. Since birth, inside of you, in your DNA, is everything that God has ever wanted you to do, everything that God has ever wanted to do through you, everything that you need to live out this blessed Psalms 1:1, to live that out, everything that you need to excel in life and to fulfill the destiny and the will of God is already inside of you, and you've been walking around it since the creation in your mother's womb, and that's why people want to kill you. So you've been walking around, but the problem is it's been unborn and it's been undeveloped. I've been preaching this for months now. When God created the heavens and the earth, he said, I put everything in the earth to let it multiply, to let it be fruitful. So God doesn't come back and replant every season. Everything that the earth needs to be the earth and to fulfill its destiny is already in the earth, but it took Adam coming on the scene to develop everything. So here lies the problem. We've been talking about the need for new structures. We've been talking about the need to develop what's inside of you. We've been talking about this new wine. We've been talking about, hey, there's something new inside of you. Let's bring it out. Let's have a new way of thinking and a new way of operating and a new way of handling, strife in our life so we can develop what's inside of you. But the problem is we're talking about the new wine. We're talking about the restoration, and all of these things await for you, but we don't know what to do next. Brad, I hear you. I love these messages. Yeah, restoration, new wine. Yeah, new. I love it. New outlook in life. I love it. But what do I do next? I'm going to help you with that today. The final part of our restoration series. This is how God works. You ready for this? This is how God works. It goes something like this. Brad, God. Do that one more time. Brad works. Brad sacrifices. Brad sweats. Brad dives into it. Brad studies. Brad leads. Brad's obedient. Brad makes the sacrifices. And all of a sudden, bam, God. Brad. Then all of a sudden, God. If you do this, then I will do this. And it's the Brad moments leading up to the bam God moment that nobody wants to do, because that means you've got to work outside of your comfort zone. That means you got to actually do something, and people don't want to do anything. So that means you got to get up and get involved, because it's the Brad moments leading up to the bam God moments that we pursue, we plan, we strategize, we move and we shake, we consult and we pray, we give and we sacrifice, and we do all of these things. All of a sudden, God shows up, and bam, God, and then he does something for us that we could not have done on our own. He gives us favor when we didn't have favor before. He opens up doors that we could not have. He gives us an opportunity that we didn't have before, and he takes us places that we could have never gone without him. So that's how God works. Brad, I love the new wine. I love the new restoration, but what do I do now? You get to work. You start doing the Mike things. Mike, bam, God. Brent, you're here. I'm going to preach on you. What do? You do the Brent things. Brent's working hard. Brent's sowing. Brent's being obedient. Brent's loving God. Brent's worshiping God. Brent's leading his family. Brent's teaching his children. Brent's being a good husband. Brent. And you keep on Brent. Bam, God. Everybody wants God to zap a blessing. God is not a zapper. He's a creator. He's a hard worker. He knows what it takes. He said, if you do the Brad stuff, I'll do the God stuff. Because it's the moments between the gods where Brad is faithful. It's the moments between the gods when Brad is walking out the process. The Brad God. When God took Israel out of Egypt, that was step one. But it was not the final goal. It's what was preached, God delivering the children of Israel from Egypt, but that wasn't the final goal. God's goal wasn't to get them out of there. God's goal was to get them in there. I want to give you a land flowing with milk and honey, vitamin D milk, the good stuff, the cold stuff. But there's like 3 steps involved here, and I thought this is so true for us. Step 1 was, let's get Pharaoh behind us. Let's break out from bondage. Let's no longer be slaves. Let's be free. And that's many of us in here. Step 1 to your salvation is, let's get you saved. Let's get you away from Pharaoh. Let's get you away from the bondage that you're in. Ashley and I have been really thinking about the vision of the church and our mission of the church, and we're still trying to put it into words. I can speak and I can talk. It's what I do for a living, but it's hard for me to put my thoughts on paper. Matter of fact, when I write my messages, I preach them out loud to put them on paper, because I have a hard time just sitting down and just doing it. But Ashley's a great writer. So I said, babe, these are my words I'm speaking. Can you put it on paper for me? Just make me sound better. But I know this. I know what I want to do here in this church is our mission. It's a 4-step mission. Number one, let's begin by introducing people to Jesus. Because believe it or not, especially the church that we're going to grow, it's not going to be everybody like you who comes here when there's a snowstorm. People that are going to come to this church, they don't even know who Jesus is. They know the name, but they know nothing more. Thank you just for being with me today, and thank you for just giving me this time to speak. I feel like this is just a big God moment for us. But I was talking to a man. He said, you got to understand something. He said, when your papa who built this church, Ronald C. Riddle, when he built this church, he said 80% of the people in the community went to church. So you could have 3-hour church services, and you can Shandai everywhere, and you could do crazy things. We've heard of those stories. My dad would sit here as a young kid, and women would have these really high beehives, and they would shake out all their pins, and they talked about going around and picking up the pins after church and seeing who can pick up the most. That was a common thing. But then when my dad, Ronald S. Riddle, took this church over, then you're down to like 60%, 50% of the community goes to church. So yeah, you can have those 3-hour services every once in a while and have the people walking in your door know who Jesus is. But now all of a sudden you, Brad, you're running a church where only 20% of the people in your community even know who God is. So what you've got to do is, if you want some new wine and if you want some newness, you've got to do something different. I love the black grand piano that my Nana played and my dad played for years here, but that's not going to reach the unchurched. Why do we let coffee in the sanctuary? Well, what you got to understand is the coffee in the sanctuary is going to bring the unchurched into the church. Well, I don't really want to go to church, but if I can sit there for an hour and a half and drink coffee and listen, I'll do it. And then that's our worm on the hook. They come in, we feed them some donuts, we give them some coffee, and then we have a worship experience like we just had, and I preach truth, and all of a sudden, boom, we got you. We got him, and he's a big one. So that's why we do it. We have to understand when people come in here, they don't know what speaking in tongues is. So we have to train them and teach them. That's why I've been trying to get you guys to understand that we have to manage that. Not restrict it, but we harness it and we focus its power so we can change people's lives. Because when people come into the house of God, they don't know what the house of God is. I'm not joking with you. Sean and I were here about a month ago doing this stage. Jimmy John showed up freaky fast in the middle of a snowstorm. He came in and said, well, so what are you guys doing in here? Like, probably never stepped inside of a church before. I was with a plumber for 3 hours yesterday, plumbing that bathroom in there. The women's bathroom and the men's bathroom are connected. So when women are being crazy, flushing things they shouldn't, it floods the men's bathroom. So we're down there for 3 hours, and it's just a nasty mess in here. He's walking around and said, so what now, where am I? And I began to walk him through the church. I walked him through the old church. And then I said, this is the newer edition. Still 40 years old or whatever. So this is your sanctuary, huh? This is really cool. The dude never stepped inside of a church before in his life. So I don't know why so I got my mission statement. Number one, let's introduce people to Jesus because they don't know who he is. Number two, let's save them. Number three, let's develop them. Number four, let's help them find their purpose. That's my mission of this church. So step one, so I said, listen, we're going to pull you out. Sean, you're coming up early. I got no, come on up. But just know I'm going to talk as fast as I can. Come on up. I'm trying, Sean. Don't give me that eye. So he says, so step one, I'm going to get Pharaoh behind you. I'm going to bring you out of slavery. I'm going to get you free. Step two, what you're going to do is you're going to walk through the wilderness for a little bit. And what's going to happen is while you're there, you're going to be tested. And it's going to renew your mind. You're going to begin to think differently in the wilderness. Why? Because when you get saved, you've got the right heart, but you got the wrong head. So we're going to got to fix you up a little bit. Number three, then I'm going to take you into that promised land. Jericho was part of the promised land. The Bible says that Jericho was straightly shut up. It had fortified walls, 12, 13, 14, 15 feet high. Where God was leading listen to this, where God was leading the children of Israel to fulfill their destiny, had walls designed to keep them out. Why? Because where God wants to take you, you cannot go on your own. There's a lot of things and other places that you can go on your own. A lot of success that you can find on your own. But I'm trying to take you to a place that was designed to keep you out. But I'm going to get you there, but you cannot go on your own. Where God said is your promised land, your destiny, your unborn, undeveloped destiny, where God said that moment and that place had fortified walls. You were not supposed shut up. But that's okay. God. There came a God moment. But before there came a God moment and the walls of Jericho came crumbling down, before there was a bam God moment and the walls came down, letting them go into the promised land, before that day came, there were Joshua days. Joshua walked around the walls for 6 days. Joshua, bam God. Everybody wants the bam God, but nobody wants the Joshua days. If and then. If you do the work, then I do my work. I'm talking about restoration. I'm talking about new wine. I'm trying to tell you, and I want you to understand that there is a newness that awaits you, but in order for you to experience the newness, the promised land, you have got to put in the work. Joshua walked around the walls for 6 days, not saying a word. Because sometimes what leads us to the victory isn't the shout, but it's the relentless effort to obey God quietly. I was talking to Ashley, and we were on Facebook Live yesterday, and we were kind of talking about this. I'm not thoroughly impressed with the people that can shout the loudest during worship. I'm not impressed with the people that have a competition of who's holier. Shandai. No, Shandai. You know, that stuff doesn't, you know what I'm impressed by? I'm thoroughly impressed by the people that come to church, this building, in the middle of the week when nobody knows that they're here, and gets inside and begins to clean walls and throw away trash and paints and deals with the plumber and shovels the porch and does all this work, changes the light bulbs, does all of this work. And if it wasn't for the fact that I would embarrass those people, I would tell you their names. But that's what impresses me. The people that quietly serve behind the scenes, building up to their bam God moment. It's a potluck Sunday. I'll serve the spaghetti. I'll dish it out. Give me the hairnet. Give me the gloves. I'll dish it out so that everybody that walks by will see me. That doesn't impress me. I appreciate your willingness to serve, but that doesn't impress me. Everybody wants to get the limelight, but I'm more impressed by the individual that takes the leftover spaghetti down to the homeless people and feeds them when nobody's watching. It's the quiet serving around the walls that moves us into victory. So you have Israel. I slowed down because it's hard for me to say. Bam, God. The trumpets blew. They shouted. The walls fell. The people were plundered. The people of Israel go in. Why? Because prior to that, they did all the Israel duties until the day happened. Now, check this out. Now, the Israelites live in a city that they did not live in before. They're living in houses that they did not build. They have vineyards that they did not plant. They have wells that they did not dig. God gave them the promise that I'm talking about. God gave them and delivered the promise, but they had to do the Brad days, the Joshua days, before it happened. Restoration. New structures, new mindsets, new thinkings, new behaviors, new outlook. If you want something new in your life, you got to do something new. And I don't know why it's so profound. I don't know why people are shocked at that statement. Because outside of the church, that's not a question. People don't if I want to be financially stable, I have to change my spending habits. I get that. I can't have debt. Maybe start putting some money aside. Maybe it's time for me to cut the Cox cable cord and put some money aside. And nobody questions that. Oh yeah, if I want to be physically healthy, I got to back off the soda, maybe start walking a little bit, kind of get a little bit more active. I know that in order for me to get this, I've got to do this. Nobody questions that. But all of a sudden, we start to serve a God who is all-powerful, all-knowing, and who can zap down the blessings. And we just think, oh, you could do all the work, and I could just reap the harvest. It doesn't work like that in any area of our life. So again, we're talking about restoration and we're talking about new wine, but in order for you guys to experience this newness, you have got to do something that you were not doing before. So what is that? I don't know. I don't know what you do, but I can tell you what I do. I wake up earlier than I've ever woke up before. I spend more time in prayer than I ever spent before. I spent more time reading and studying than I've ever spent before. I talk to more mentors than I've ever talked before. I consult God more than I've ever talked before. I understand that now people are looking at me in a different light, so I have to behave differently outside of these walls than I ever did before. I know that my marriage and my family would be under attack, and so we are protecting our family like we never did before. Why? Because in order for us to experience the restoration, in order for us to experience, listen, we want God to restore this church. I don't want, listen, this church at its peak was 180 members. Well, let me take that back. Probably more members. There's probably 200-something members on books. But I bet you, in one particular service, we had 180 people. Well, I want God to restore this church to more than what it was. And I'm using that as a benchmark. So I want more than what that was. But God said, okay, I can do that. And Brad, I can give you a new facility. And Brad, I can get you more people. I had a great Eddie Walker. Eddie Walker messaged me this week. He's a phenomenal friend of ours. He's a great musician. And he has a standing invitation to come here and be a part of this praise team, you know. And he's just an incredible guy. And he messaged me, said, man, I was watching your Facebook Lives. He said, I could tell that you're really trying to, create a new culture in there and get people to serve and stuff. He said, I pray that God will send you the laborers. And I said, oh, my goodness, Eddie. Thank you so much. But in order for us to ever experience the new wine, there's got to be a creation of new. There's got to be a kids' corner. There's got to be a kids' corner. There's got to be, now all of a sudden, we're opening up the doors now. We're keeping everything open so people can walk in. We don't have Sunday school right now, but we have come and I don't want to call it fellowship. I don't want to call it that. I want to connect. It's our connecting time. I want you guys to come early and grab a donut and grab a coffee and sit down and connect with people. Not fellowship. Don't just say a couple words to me, but connect with me. Look me in my eyes and let's have a conversation. Your restoration awaits. But in order for you to experience it, you got to do the God things leading up to it. Or the Brad things leading up to it. God, I love you and I thank you for this day. I thank you for these people. God, thank you for this congregation. Thank you for this core group who said, you know what, it's Sunday, man. It's Sunday. People are going to work. People are going out to eat. People are going to sports. I'm going to church. Bless them for their obedience to you. So I do something here, and I don't know if it will apply to this audience, but maybe who's watching online. But again, our goal is to introduce people to Jesus, and we've been, but I always want to give people an opportunity to get saved, to say, you know what, Jesus, I need you in my life, and come in my heart. And so I do this off of every service. So with your eyes closed and your heads bowed, if there's anybody in this church, and I don't know who it is, but if there's anybody in this church that says, you know what, I'm not sure if this Jesus guy is in my heart. I've never asked him in my heart. I don't really know if he is. If that's you, all I want you to do is just simply lift up your hand. And what you're doing is you're fleshing out. We talk about you're fleshing out your faith. You're getting physical with your faith. First the natural, then the spiritual. So when you just raise your hand, you're just acknowledging, like, yep, that's me. So if that is you, all you do is you just repeat this prayer. Jesus Christ, I have sinned. I have fallen short of the glory. I don't know if I've ever asked you in my heart before, but I want to do it now. Will you please come into my heart, cleanse me of my sin, and help me create my new structures, because I want the new wine. And you have to say this: I now profess you as my Lord and my personal Savior. In Jesus' name, amen. And we applaud for everybody. Applaud. Thank you. I want to thank you guys so much for coming, and please drive safe, and we will see you next Sunday. Hey, and invite somebody, because that's our job. All right, we love you. We'll see you next week.